Everybody? Can you hear me okay? So we're going to go ahead and get started. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 empty seats right up here in front and 4 up here. So if you'd like to come and take a seat, you'll probably be more comfortable than back there. Welcome to the State of the City address. We'll be hearing from our mayor in a little bit. In the meantime, I'm Denise Delmar. I'm your mayor pro tem and the MC for today's festivities. We are going to, I need to see if we have any other of our, I have to take my glasses off, I apologize. Do we have Councilmember Gene Goss? I thought I saw him earlier. There you are. How about Councilmember Capocia? I didn't see him, or Councilmember Harabedian? No? Huh? Okay. Do we have any of our past elected officials? If you could all stand up and take a round of applause. And of course, I want to, before we even begin, thank Laura Aguilera, our assistant city manager, who always does a wonderful job and organizes all these festivities for us. And we couldn't survive without Laura. So thank you, Laura. We're going to introduce our Boy Scout troop. Could I have Chase Abernathy please come forward, and he'll call the troop in, and we'll all say the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Color guard, attention, audience, please rise. Color guard, forward march. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Color guard, please post the colors. Color guard dismissed.
We would like to thank Chase Abernathy for leading that and the Boy Scout troop for coming out and supporting Sierra Madre. I always think it's very impressive when they do the colors like that. Before we hear from the mayor, today we're going to actually have some musical entertainment from some of our young people in Sierra Madre. The first up will be our 13-year-old pianist, Noah Costa from Sierra Madre Music, is performing the intermezzo from the opera Calavere Rusticano. I hope I pronounced that right. I've been practicing and practicing. It means Italian for rustic chivalry, and it's by Pietro Mascanini. So if we can have Noah come forward. Let's give him a round of applause and make him feel welcome, everybody. How long have you been playing the piano, Noah?
About 5 years.
About 5 years. So he's 13. Did I say that? He's 13 years old and just played that piece for us. Thank you so much, Noah.
Thank you.
I would also like to recognize we do have some of our staff members from our state assemblies and senators. We have Darla from Senator Anthony Portantino's office. Are you here? There she is. She's also friends with Chaz, who did our troop, and we're glad she was able to see that. We also have Faith from Assembly Member Holden. Thank you. And we also have Mamie from Judy Chu's office. Where was she? There she is. And we very much appreciate you ladies coming out on a Saturday for our State of the City. So now we'll have our second musical interlude with Zoe. She will be singing Teach Your Children Well, Zoe Hellings. And, I'm sorry, Zoe will be doing, and the ukulele will be Lola. So let me say that again. Zoe Hellings will be doing the vocals for Teach Your Children Well, and Lola Waters, the ukulele, will be performing Teach Your Children Well. So come on up here. Yay. Before we begin, Zoe, how old are you?
I'm 12 years old.
She's 12 years old, and you've been singing for how long?
I'm 2 years.
You've been singing for 2 years, or since you were 2?
Well, I mean, I've been singing for a long time. I just started taking voice lessons.
So you started taking voice lessons about 2 years ago, because I imagine you've probably been singing for a long time as well. Yes. And how about yourself?
I'm 11 years old, and I've been playing ukulele for about 7 months.
And why did you decide to play the ukulele?
Because it's like a different instrument, and unlike the rest. So.
And it's easy to carry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty, we'll let you all begin.
She can live by, and so become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye. Teach your children well, their father's help needs slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams, the one they pick, the one you'll know by. Don't you ever ask them why, if they told you you would cry, so just look at them and sigh.
very young, accomplished children, young people in our Sierra Madre, and they all come from Sierra Madre music. One more time for all of our musical guys. And I have to tell you, there is no way, well, I can't sing anyway, but no way at 12 years old that I get up here and sing or play the piano or the ukulele. And who knew the ukulele could have so much beautiful music coming out of it? So good job, all. I still see we have Councilmember John Capocia who showed up. Thank you. We have seats up here if you'd like to sit down, Councilmember. Nope. All righty. So now it's time for me to introduce the mayor. Before I read all of her many, many accomplishments that she's done, I did want to share one of my favorite stories about the mayor. And remember, I'm telling you this before I tell you all of her many accomplishments. So the mayor and myself and Councilmember Capocia had the opportunity one time during our term as city council members to watch the filming of Dog Whisperer. Do you all know that show, The Dog Whisperer? They came into town. Someone saw it, yeah? So they came into town to film, and we were asked to serve as judges for a dog show, and they did the filming. And the dog whisperer kept looking around and saw this little black dog who was just not paying attention. Remember, I'm going to tell you all about the mayor's accomplishments in just a minute. So during a break in the show, the dog whisperer came up and said, "Does anybody know who owns that little black dog who's not behaving?" And of course, it was our mayor's dog. So he said to her, "Let me see him for a little bit." So he took the dog away, probably less than 5 minutes, right? Came back, the dog was so well behaved. Little Madison was sitting and was able to walk. And he basically, the dog whisperer said to our now mayor, you know, you have to be in charge. You can't let the dog lead you. So that was our fun experience with the mayor. So even though she wasn't the best at dog training, let me tell you all the other things that she has accomplished in her young life. Michelle Arizmendi was elected to the City Council in 2014. In April 2017, she was elected to serve as mayor by the council. In 2016, Rochelle was selected as board member of the California League of Cities and as a board member of the League's Asian Pacific Islander APA caucus. Additional appointments include governor appointee to the State Interagency Coordinating Council on Early Intervention, serving as a board member of the other nonprofits, including Asia Pacific Policy and Planning Council and the Foothill Workforce Development Policy Board, and serving as an advisory member of the South Coast AQMD Local Government and Small Business Assistance Advisory Group. Nothing about the dog training. Michelle is the Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of PACE, Pacific Asian Consortium in Employment. You must know that. Do you know her from PACE? PACE is a nonprofit community development organization that serves over 40,000 people every year in the areas of job training and employment, business development, early childhood education, financial education, and asset building, energy and weatherization. She oversees a budget of close to $30 million and staff of 300 employees. In her previous capacity of PACE, she held the position of Education Project Director for 16 years. She was also the Executive Director for 211 California, an affiliate organization of the United Ways of California. Our Rochelle was born in Carmel, California. She is a graduate of San Diego State University, where she earned 2 bachelor's degrees. And prior to pursuing her master's degree at Eastern Illinois University, she continues to hold her registered dietitian designation and has taught nutrition courses at Pasadena City College. Rochelle, her husband, Feely, and the now behaved dog, Madison, have resided in Sierra Madre for over 10 years. She enjoys traveling, reading, outdoor activities, and country line dancing. Perhaps she'll show us some of that. It has been my honor to serve with Mayor Rochelle Arizmendi this past year and over the past 4 years as our City Council has strived to make Sierra Madre a unique and place to live, as well as keeping our budget under control and doing it with civility and respect. My honor to welcome the mayor.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem Del Mar, and for sharing that story of Madison. She still chases butterflies, And Cesar Milan told me, when I'm holding the leash, pretend you're holding a Louis Vuitton bag. And for some reason, that works with the dog. I do understand Councilmember Herabedian is here. I didn't see, oh, there he is. So just a welcome to Councilmember Herabedian. So I do want to thank all, actually before I start, just because Denise Del Mar, Mayor Pro Tem, talked a little bit about my work at PACE. I had a nice little surprise here with Kim. Kim, do you want to raise your hand really quickly? Are you living in town? No. It's great to see her anyway. I know she comes in town a lot. But the reason I wanted to point her out is she actually was one of our parents from our early childhood education program. And one thing that we do at that program is really empower parents to not just be active in their children's lives, but to really go on into civic engagement and really being a leader in their community. And Kim was such an amazing product asset to the work that we did. She took a trip with us to Washington, D.C. She ended up getting her master's in business administration, and she's just doing so well now. And I'm just so pleased to see you here, and I just want to say a shout out. So great work. Again, thank you so much for coming out today. I know there are a lot of competing conflicts and activities that you could be doing on a Saturday. I know Huck Finn is going on right now. I'm sure they were just clamoring to come to State of the City, but they're out there fishing today. We have marches in downtown LA, but I'm extremely thankful all of you came today to just learn a little bit of what's going on in our city. And I do want to just start off really quickly here with a couple of fun pictures. But as he's putting that up, special thanks to our scouts and to our performers today for coming out. And I also do want to recognize our staff. I know we have quite a few staff in the room, but if you could just raise your hands and if we can give them a hand, please. So I don't have to say much about myself because obviously Mayor Pro Tem said quite a bit. But I wanted to share this picture because it's one, it makes me laugh because this is my goddaughter. My husband and I don't have children, we have a dog. But this is my goddaughter Sienna, and we're in a race together, and she's my little mini me, and I love that. She's my niece. But she always tells me, Ninang, which is godmother in Filipino, Ninang, I want to be just like you, and I want to be a mayor. I want to be a city council person. And I said, well, what does that mean to you? She's like, I don't know, I just want to be one, which I think is great. But you know, what we get to do, an opportunity we have throughout the year is to talk to kids throughout the year about the work that we do. And so this is a picture of our Girl Scouts, and you can go ahead into the next one too. And this is a picture of the Boy Scouts, and we bring them into chambers and we talk about what we do as city council people. We give them the opportunity to come up to the podium and what are your big concerns? What would you like to change in the city? And in this picture, by the way, I accidentally pressed the wrong button and the police came in. They thought something was going on, so it was like a SWAT team coming through. But the other exercise that we do is I give them play money, and I give them X amount. Let's say I give them 10 singles. And I put out little boxes that say one might be fixing the sidewalks, one might be events like Huck Finn, one might be police, and one might be fire. So I ask them, with those dollars that you have, where do you want to put the money? What is most important to you? And what do you think is your priority? And they all get their money, they're very excited. They all love the 4th of July parade, they all love Halloween. So you can imagine a lot of the dollars go into the community service box. Not so exciting, the sidewalks, not so exciting is making sure the pipes are done. But at the end, they always tell me, well, I didn't have enough money, and I want more money. And I said, well, this is kind of the challenge that we have. So as city council members, we take what funding streams we have in, we try and find out what the priorities are, not just by us as city council member, but really as you as the people and the residents of the community, and figure out, you know, what do we want to do and where do we want to prioritize. So with that, I'm going to start with kind of the sad things, the challenges that we have in the city, but also some of the opportunities. There is a lot of work that's been done in the last year, a lot of work that's been done in the last 4 years. And I do use 4 years kind of as my benchmark because that's when I came into City Council. I served on the Community Services Commission for 5 years prior to that, but that's kind of where my benchmark is. And as we're looking at where we are with our challenges and opportunities, there's three things that stand out. Not to say that it's limited to these three areas, but these are three areas that stand out. Pension liability, which we hear quite a bit about, library, and the UT, or the utility users repeal. So let's start here with the liability. We hear this in municipalities all throughout, not just our region, but really throughout the state, and what we're dealing with in terms of our pension. And these numbers here are quite startling when you're looking at our liability costs and how much they're increasing every single year. In 17-18, we're seeing a cost of $100,000. By 2021, we're seeing $130,000 of an increase. That's a total increase of 68%, and we're seeing $1.25 million in 2021 when we're looking at our liability. What are our peer cities doing? Many of them are selling off their debt in order to make sure that they are contributing to what their unfunded liability is. And they're increasing fees. We're seeing a lot of new measures on ballots, and a lot of them are for special parcel taxes to address the pension liability. And at this point, Sierra Madre hasn't done anything to really reduce these costs. So this is just a graph to see what those numbers look like again. By 2021, as I said, a 68% increase, and by 2021, that equates to $1.2 million. So this is an issue we still need to tackle. This is not something we have really addressed in these last few years. We do have few plans that are in the works as to how to address it. We have some possible savings that we can pay down some of that, and looking at possibly some investments to increase our return, and so that we can pay some of that down. But at this point, we know that this is something that we have to address. We're not trying to look the other way and wait for it to get worse. But pension liabilities will be an issue we need to take a look at. The next challenge is with our library. How many of you received your library surveys? How many of you filled your library surveys out? And keep them up if you actually returned them. Okay, great, thanks. A few months ago, our trustees and our Friends of the Library had proposed to take a look at the library and see what other opportunities we have. And one of the proposals was to move the library over to the Youth Activity Center, allowing for a little bit more space, and also addressing the fact that we have some infrastructure issues at our current library, and that are including ADA accessibility. We also have some roofing leaks, so really the maintenance of the library. And when that proposal came out, I will tell you, as city council people, we heard so much feedback from the community. And so what we decided to do is issue out this survey to see, what do the residents really want? What are your priorities? Is it really the events that we have at the library? Is it really the use of the library space? Is it to ensure that we have resources there? Is it about the technology piece to it? So that's really what we're hoping to hear back from residents. I will tell you at this point, we are still waiting for all of the surveys to be received, and to do some to analyze that and evaluate it so we can best decide how to address the library issues. I will say that, especially in these last couple of months since I've been talking to people for the campaign, I will tell you verbally, a lot of folks are telling me we just want the library to stay where it is. There are a few that are just saying we don't need library whatsoever, but I will tell you it's a very small percentage of people that I'm talking to. But we will wait until April, May to get those results back, and I hope that as we're discussing that at City Council level, that there will be some of that more interaction at the podium and a public comment. How many of you know what Measure D is? Okay. The utility users tax, or user utility tax. I just get the two U's mixed up. Who knows the correct? Is it utility user, user utility?
It's utility users.
Utility user. See, I think I use it backwards. Nevertheless, Measure D at this point is on the ballot, and it is stating that it would be a total repeal of this tax altogether. And right now it is at 10%, and I wanted to go through just a little bit in terms of what it's actually funding and how it's funding it. It's 24% of our general fund, which is actually $2.6 million. And what it does pay for is police, fire, library, and community services. 4 years ago when I ran for office, I personally had voted against the utility user tax. And 2 years ago, after being on the council for 2 years, it was very clear to me as we delved into the numbers and realizing what our priorities are, at least for myself and the residents that I had spoken to, it was clear that we wanted to maintain it as is. So unanimously as a council, we decided we are going to support this effort and we want a yes on UUT. 2 years later, just shocked to find that an outside entity is making this movement all throughout the region of Southern California, and I believe also through Northern California, just to repeal it altogether. And what's extremely disturbing is the people on the outside don't understand our community, they don't understand Sierra Madre, and what it actually pays for. And if you can see here, if we do repeal it altogether, we're looking at reducing our patrol police by 60%, and that means eliminating 4 sergeants and 6 officers. It would eliminate ambulance services from Sierra Madre Fire Department. It would eliminate all community service activities, so like the one that's happening in Huck Finn, Wisteria Festival that we just had last week, eliminate those altogether. And reduce library operations to 1 day per week. And there's a reason we had to say 1 day per week, because we are required to have the library open by statute. But all of these would be eliminated. And even if we eliminated all of that together, that only equates to $1.6 million. We still have to find another $900,000. There's no way that our city will look the way it does today if that Measure D passes. And that's why, again, as an entire council, we are adamantly opposed to this measure, and we are unanimously encouraging everyone to ensure that we maintain our UUT and that Measure D is defeated. This here on the right-hand side is just a breakdown as to how the general fund expenditures look. And you're looking at 18% of fire, 7% of library, 33% of police, and all of our other departments that depend on this general fund. I will share with all of you, because it's so quiet in this room. I think those are just such startling pieces of information that I know for many of us, this is not what we want to see. I would say almost all of us, that's not what we want to see. I did kind of dry runs at the Women's Club and at the Kiwanis, and this challenge and opportunity was actually the end. And to end the presentation with information was just uninspiring. And I said, we gotta move it around. So that's actually why I started with those challenge and opportunities, because we know as we look ahead, there's a lot more work to do. But we have accomplished a lot in this last year, and really our state of the city at this point is very strong, and I'm optimistic as to how we can approach this next year and just talk about the highlights of the work that has been done. In terms of budget, we've actually balanced it, and in an exciting way. We've budgeted $900,000 less than we have the previous year. And this is, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the changes we've done in fire and police and how we've been able to do this. But I do want to give recognition to our city manager, Gabe England. If you have not met him, Gabe, raise your hand. Just give him a hand. If you have not had the opportunity to meet him, I hope that you do. We have just been absolutely thrilled with his leadership at City Hall. He's been with us just a little bit over a year. And what he's been able to do in terms of all of these areas with budget and public safety and water has really been remarkable. And we're just thankful for his leadership and really being able to lead our staff at challenging times. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But one thing he did when he came in is he looked at all of these areas, prioritized it, and really just tackled them. So when you're looking at our, I'm going to talk about zero-based budget, but this has to do with the $900,000 less. But what we were able to do at that time, but we've been able to increase our general fund reserves by $770,000. And so as you can see here at the bottom with this graph, We started at $6.65 million with our general fund reserve, and we're at $7.42 million in general reserve. That looks great. We have some ideas of what we need to do. We talked a little bit about pension earlier. That might be an opportunity where we can pay down pension. But given that we are expending $900,000 less, this is part of where some of those dollars went, was into the general fund. Zero-based budget. When our city manager came in, he said, let's take a look at all of these lines, and every department head has to justify every dollar and every cent that you are spending. So even though you may have had $1 million in the past, that was nice, but now we're going to say every single thing that you're spending, how do you justify it, and how do you account for it? And by doing that and approaching it that way, as opposed to what we've been doing historically and starting at a number and just building it up from zero, really has helped instill a culture of expense management, accountability, and it really focuses our resources as to where they're really needed. We know they're limited. How do we ensure that we are focusing those resources in the right places? And by doing that, we were able to decrease the expenditures by $900,000. Yay, yes. Thank you. On top of that, we looked at reorganizing. We needed to look at efficiencies. We needed to make sure that we are not as bureaucratic. I know that as city council folks, that when we are approached by residents, we're like, it's so hard to get something done. I have to go through so many levels. So as we looked at the zero-based budget, we also approached our organization and looked at reducing our operating expenditures in all the areas of public works, library, water, sewer, and finance. And in doing all of that, we actually eliminated positions. Not the most exciting thing when you're talking to staff, but when, again, you're looking at efficiencies and you're looking at streamlining some of the processes, we're able to eliminate some of these positions. I'll read them off. I know this is hard to read with a pink background, but it's Public Safety Director, Library and Community Services Director, Public Works Deputy Director, Police Lieutenant, Finance Manager, and Planning Manager. It does not mean that these areas have not been attended to. It means that we streamline them, and then again, that there's increased efficiencies in the way we're doing things, but also the organizational structure is much more flat as opposed to being hierarchical. The next area I want to highlight is in water. I know for many of us 4 years ago when we were campaigning, water was the biggest issue, but it wasn't in terms of did we have enough or are we in drought. It was discolored water at the time. I remember going up to people's doors and they're bringing out yellow water. They're bringing out t-shirts that were brown that were once white because of the way that the laundry and the way that the water was interacting in their wash. However, as we fast forward 4 years, we are looking at different issues. We've been dealing with drought over the last few years, and we're also looking at our infrastructure. So we had to address our water loss. How many of you have been inconvenienced in the streets because they're working on the mains and they're patching up the pipes? Like, really? Only 1, 2? I was going to say. I'm sure everybody at some point has been inconvenienced by it. But we've had significant increase in our infrastructure investment, and we've been able to reduce debt. And let me just share a little bit in each of those areas. We were able to increase our investment into the water structure by 3 times. We tripled our infrastructure investment to more than $950,000. We replaced 4 water mains, designed replacement for 8 additional water mains coming up. We're going to release a plan to spend more than $500,000 on AMI smart meters, and I can talk a little bit about that also. And we want to make sure we're moving towards easier to understand monthly billing system. I don't know if any of you attended the water forum, but it was in here. A lot of folks were extremely upset about what they're seeing in terms of the penalties of water. We had implemented a penalty structure that really did penalize people. People were coming in with $2,000 water bills. And a lot of it was because there were leaks that were happening and people didn't know about them. When you're looking at the AMI smart meter, what you're allowed to do, what it allows you to do is actually monitor your water on a regular basis. and also so that we're not looking at bi-monthly or every other month of water billing cycle, so you're not surprised at one point. So you as a resident can really monitor what's going on with your water and ensuring that it's not because of water leaks, again, which has happened in many places. And I'll talk about water loss here in just a minute. But it's extremely important for us to continue this water investment. On the infrastructure, we do have a water master plan in place now to address the most critical areas so that there are replacement. It's no surprise that we probably just deferred a lot of this maintenance over the years. We should have been addressing this a lot earlier. So as, again, we're seeing new management in place and recognizing that we can't just continue deferring the maintenance, we need to continue the investment. That's why you see triple of the investment into $950,000 over the last year. Here's where the big surprises came for us, is at least the City Council, and I'm sure you as residents also, is the extreme water loss we've been having over the last few years. I talked a little bit about our master plan, and we're identifying the oldest pipes. When you have 70-year-old, 80-year-old, 90-year-old pipes and they have not been replaced, there's issues and we're having problems. That's why you're seeing the leaks. In 2015, we saw 29% water loss. I know when I first looked at it, I wasn't sure. Is that a lot? Is that a little? You look at 2016, 25% water loss. And this last year, and it's not, let's see, the fourth quarter of 2017, so almost complete, is 90% water loss. So the good news is there's a reduction.
19. You said 90.
Oh, 90. Well, yeah, I think everything would be exploding right now in terms of our water. Sorry, 19%. So the good news is we're in the right direction. The bad news is that it's still extreme water loss. When you're looking at a city like San Diego, when you think about size of San Diego and the footprint of San Diego, what do you think the water loss is in a city like that? Anyone, throw it out. We're at 19%. What do you think San Diego is?
37.
5.
8%. So, when you're looking at those numbers, you're comparing, even just for us over the years, where you're looking at other major cities. There's still a lot of work to do. We're moving in the right direction. We still need to continue investing in our water structure and ensuring that we are attending to that and we're not seeing that kind of water loss, especially when you're considering where we are with expected drought again this year. Not 90%. Sorry.
Can you define water loss?
So leaks, when there's leaks in the water mains, and so all of that is the loss, and that's the percentage.
In the infrastructure, not water
Right.
loss at the house.
Infrastructure, yes.
Infrastructure leaks that
Yes.
you can identify.
Yes.
How do you do that?
That I don't know. I know we have some experts in the room. How do we calculate that water loss? We have Jose Reynoso, who's our director of water.
Good morning. So the question was, how do we determine water loss? We can look at how much we produce, and then we can look at how much is metered through the system, and then the difference between the two is a water loss. There's a lot of other things that go into account: water flushing, the water that's used by the fire department for training, the water that's used for street sweeping. So we try to account for all water that's used throughout the system. And then we look at the difference between that water. So we have unaccounted for water and water that's accounted for, and the difference is the water loss.
I had a question about the water loss.
Go ahead, Jose.
If that was losses due to the infrastructure leaking underground, would some of that water then be used to recharge the groundwater?
So whatever doesn't surface would recharge, would go back into
So
the...
we're actually not losing it from the whole system, it's just not being delivered to the consumer?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I know he makes that sound so easily, but that calculation still in itself, no, that's fine. It's good. It's good. I'm glad, and please ask questions, and we'll allow some time towards the end. But it's helpful to understand it and where those numbers are coming from. And the last piece I want to talk about in water is debt reduction. This is another area that I think we could have looked at sooner, and it would have been better if we addressed sooner. When we were looking at our water bond, we have 22 cents of every dollar expended in water on debt in fiscal year 16 and 17. When we refinanced the water debt, we saved $1.3 million. That's 37%. And what we did is, the reason we were able to invest that $990,000 into the infrastructure that you saw in the last slide is because that we were able to refinance the debt. We took those savings and invested it into the infrastructure without increasing rates. Hopefully that was a good sigh. The last area I want to highlight in terms of where we are in the state of our city is in public safety. And I do want to recognize, I know we have a lot of public safety folks in the room, and really thank them for all the work that they do every day and every hour of serving our community. So let's just give them a hand for those that are here. We've been one of the only remaining volunteer fire departments in California, and it really has been an honor to be one of the cities that had a volunteer fire department. But things have changed over the years, and as we are looking at the staffing for our volunteer fire department, it's changed over the years, and we just did not have the numbers we did before. Regulations have changed, and so in order for us to make sure that we are keeping our city safe, we really had to consider moving in this route of professionalizing our fire department, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And I'm very happy to state at this point we are fully staffed also with our police department. So with our fire department, we did authorize this just very recently to go into a career fire department. We've hired 3 full-time fire medics. We're really excited about the first time in history being able to sponsor a fire cadet, Alyssa Connell, to complete a fire academy and to work in Sierra Madre, and she should be done in the next couple of months, I believe. The total new cost of nearly $500,000 of the career fire department, and so as you know, we had decrease in other expenses, but part of that investment came back here, or part of that savings came back here. So we were able to absorb the transition into a full professionalized fire department with additional $500,000 without raising taxes or looking for another funding source. So we're really excited about this. This is really a big accomplishment, especially when we're looking at reciprocity with our neighboring communities, making sure that our fire department is one that is reciprocating with work with our neighboring fire departments. And I just love that they're all women here. I just got to do a quick shout out for our women. But also in our police department, we are now fully staffed. And I've joked about this since I've done this presentation a couple of times already, and I read this. It said, fully staffed department after a difficult few years. I have to tell you all, it was really challenging over these last few years to maintain our police department. It was really difficult because of the UT, the numerous times it's come up, the question as to whether it's going to maintain, whether we're going to contract out. So we saw a lot of people leave our police department, but we're extremely thrilled that we are fully staffed. We'll shout out to our our police chief, sorry, Chief Ortiz, if you want to do a quick extremely thankful for his leadership during these challenging times, because when you are dealing with morale issues, trying to maintain the morale of those that are there, make sure that you're still overseeing and you're still responsible for the work of public safety. I just want to thank him for his leadership and being able to stick with us and keep the energy and motivation up with our police department. We've added a detective bureau and corporal positions. We sponsored, this is Lillian Shaw, a police cadet, who's to be a police officer. She was a dispatcher with the city since 2016, so we're excited to see her move into the new position. And we still are consistently ranked as the safest city in San Gabriel Valley, and that's something I know that we're extremely proud of, that we want to keep and maintain, to have that badge of honor of being a safe city. I talk quite a bit about when we moved here. I wanted a town that I could walk my dog late at night, even though she's a crazy dog. That I can walk my dog late at night. And there are not many communities that you can walk at 10:30 at night and just feel safe and know that I have every confidence that as I'm walking down the street, I'm in a safe place. And I love that about our city, and I want to help maintain having that environment for all of us. And I love that Chief and our city manager are eyeballing each other, and I'd love to see who wants to tackle that one.
What was the question?
The police lieutenant. As you recall, when we were looking at our budget, there were positions that we eliminated, and so we reorganized, and so the question was specific to police lieutenant.
So when we reviewed the positions in the budget, here in police, we have a chief, a captain, and a lieutenant that are the command structure. When we looked at span of control, we believed that the chief and captain were appropriate, and if we eliminated the lieutenant position, we could fund that back into our officers and our equipment. We haven't been great over the years at keeping up on police vehicles or radios or things like that. So by reducing that on an ongoing basis, we were able to add officers and add equipment.
It's a no-brainer. No-brainer.
A no-brainer.
Yeah. It was duplicative.
Thank you.
So as you see, despite the challenges and opportunities that I started off with, the very depressing information in the beginning, I hope you can see that really has been a lot of work over the last year, or the last few years, and we're really proud of the work that our city has been able to do in these areas. And even such a short period of time, when you're thinking about how much we've invested into the water structure, being able to professionalize the fire department, being able to balance the budget, reduce costs, it's a lot of work in a very short period of time. And I'm just extremely thankful again for the leadership that we have at City Hall, and really the staff that's been able to get behind these efforts, especially when there was so much change, so much evolution over the last year. It hasn't been easy, but I think we're all very proud of the work that's been done. With all that being said, there's still a lot of work to do. Those challenges and opportunities are still there. We need to defeat Measure D #1. As long as we get that out of the way, we can really tackle these other issues. Water infrastructure, 19%, not 90% water loss is still an issue, so we need to address that. And there are other issues that will continue to arise, but at least we have a way of prioritizing now. We've tackled the big issues. At the same time, there's still a lot of work to do. So I am thankful for all of you for being here today to come learn what our state of the city is. I do think our state of the city is strong, but again, a lot of work to do, and we want to build off of the momentum we've had over this last year so we can continue doing the work. With that, I do want to thank you, but I also want to allow time for questions, and we have a lot of resources in the room. And so if you have questions on any of these items and or anything else that is burning, please ask now. Please.
I'm just a part-time resident here in Madre. I love the community. On the fire department, will that mean there'll be a combination of volunteers and professional, or just all
professional at this point? Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You know, it was a great training ground for a lot of new or those that are interested in the field. Historically, we've had residents that were part of this town that were volunteering, and at the time you can really get out of bed and just walk on over to the fire department if you were called for it. But with the changes of regulations, with the change in those that are volunteered, we just went completely to professionalized department. Sir.
I was a big proponent of the UUT back when it passed originally, and I am again. I'm not a proponent of $10 per punitive water over the target level. That feels a little excessive, and it feels like you could make some compromises there, because like you said, somebody gets a $2,000 bill, okay, so they had a leak, but some people get $400 and $500 bills without a leak. And when it's during their time in the winter, you know, when it's low water target, is there some consideration of compromising that punitive damage to something like $6 instead of $10?
Short answer, yes, there is. Right now we are going to be going through a water study, and one of the proposals has been to simplify what our structure looks like. So one rate, we are looking at just how much you will be charged if you're using Sierra Madre water, and the next rate will be how much you're being charged for if you are using water that's being imported. So we're looking at that piece so that it simplifies it. What we've been doing lately has been when you're looking at your water targets, it's been based on units, it's been based on what time of the year, possibly it could be off of someone that had lived there before. There were a lot of concerns as to how we are structuring our billing and our water pricing. So we're hoping to simplify it, and then also so that will change the way we're looking at penalties. But the short answer is yes. We heard people loud and clear that our thought was, because we were going through a drought, if we penalize people enough, they're going to really not use it. We saw mixed results with that. That's why we are re-looking at our water structure pricing altogether and what that would look like in terms of penalties. We're hoping in the next, I think we were trying to say June. I'm looking at city manager. We're hoping looking at June to bring something forward. So stay tuned. I think it'll be better for all of us as residents and also for the city.
One further question on that. How are we as consumers aware of whether we're using Sierra Madre water or imported water, and what is the cost of the imported water versus the Sierra Madre water?
And I think that's a good question. I don't think I have the answer to that yet. But as we're looking at the water study, I think we're going to have a better understanding as to what that is. But I think it's just going to be equal across. So I'm going to use it in. Okay, I'm going to look at Gabe because I'm going to make something up. I was going to say if everyone just has 10 units, that's your Sierra Madre use of water, and then anything above that. So I think there will be a level amount, but I'm going to ask them. Yes, kind of okay?
So to address both points, the last water system had 4 tiers, and your conservation target was based on usage from like 2014. The first time I sat down, Jose and I sat down, I said, oh my God, this looks like a government designed this water rate study. It was awful. So moving forward, we're gonna go to 2 tiers. As the mayor said, imported water will be the higher tier. Water we can produce will be the lower tier. And how we determine that, for example, last year we could only produce 48% of the water that the residents use. So we divide that evenly among all the users. And if we have to import water for your use, then you pay for the import costs. Imported water, we do have a very good water district. We're small but mighty. I think it's 4 cities. So it's a good deal, but the water is more expensive to import, to put in the ground, to percolate it down, pump it back up, treat it, and deliver it. So the second tier will be higher.
Are you considering eliminating the punitive damages?
So how the penalties work today is, again, on an arbitrary number, and it's switched between winter and summer. Moving forward, what we intend to bring to council, which is separate from the rate study, is I think it's our 48 accounts out of 4,000 use about 12% of our water, which all the other accounts, the other 3,850 accounts, use 88%. So if you think about that, it's a lot. So what we want to do is, if you're one of the high users, we call them super users, then there will be penalties likely associated with your use. In the example we use is I had, about a month ago, a resident come in and say, I can't stand the high water bills, and we're going through it. And I said, well, let me just look at your use. We pulled it up, and as a single family resident, or house, residential house, she was using more water every month than my 40 apartment condo building. And we said, the reason your water bill is so high is because you use a lot of water. And that's how we want to move forward.
What about recycled water? Is there any way that we could have recycled water both privately in our own homes and businesses and also in the infrastructure? Has anybody thought about recycled water? As it stands, I stick a bucket underneath my small dishwasher, and when I wash the dishes, I water my plants.
Sure.
Ooh,
which is great. And I will say that especially our Energy Environmental Commission talk about different ways that we can conserve water and reuse of water. At the level of the city, we have not explored that at this point that I know of. But we do want to encourage residents to continue doing that practice, and we do have workshops that folks can learn more about what to do at the residential level. Anything else?
Can you talk about ways to possibly generate more revenue for the city? Is there anything in the works?
At this point, we don't have anything in the works, and I think what we've been looking at doing is seeing how to balance at this point, understanding that we are going to have that increased pension liability. So we've just been in maintenance mode at this point, but I think as we're moving forward, if we have to consider additional revenue streams, there's been talk about, do we need a special parcel tax to maintain the library? That was one area, and folks that are saying, yes, we'd be behind that 100%, and some that are not so excited about that. So there might be a time, I think in the near future, we're gonna have to consider additional revenue streams because we're, again, in maintenance mode right now, understanding that there's gonna be increased costs, especially as it relates to pension in the next year or two. Yes.
I noticed a couple of months ago there was filming on Sierra Madre Boulevard. Could you mention what that was, and do we get, some revenue for that?
Yes. So there's I will say there's mixed response with filming. So there is some revenue that we generate from that. Our city is very appealing to a lot of filmmakers and TV shows because it has a unique feel of that. So there is revenue that comes in. There's some inconvenience to some of the residents. I've heard from some businesses, they enjoy it because there's more businesses that come through, but again, it's a mixed bag. I will say I know Big Little Lies was being filmed because Reese Witherspoon was down here. I know Sandra Bullock was in town. So I don't know all of the shows, but there has been interest into Sierra Madre to film here, and it does generate revenue. And we're hoping it also increases revenue for some of our businesses. Anything else? Well, again, yes, sir.
Do you have a feel yet for how the UUT is going to go? Are you hopeful it's going to pass and thinking?
So it's going to be extremely important for people like yourselves, if you are feeling strongly that should not be repealed, that you are getting out there, because I will say 2 years ago with the Yes on UUT, 72% of residents did vote for yes, so that says quite a bit. I'm also concerned that there might be some voter amnesia and people forget. Sometimes people are saying, am I supposed to vote yes or the no to keep it? I've just been trying to tell people down with D. D is disaster, D is not good. Vote no. But no, vote no. But we are trying to, we do have a No on Measure D committee that's out there, so there's signs, there are literature that's being sent out, so a lot of it also needs to be word of mouth and making sure that people get out to the polling place. I will say, as I've been campaigning in the last month or two, maybe 1 out of 80 people I talk to are saying, I still think it should pass and I'm going to vote yes for it. But most of the folks are saying no. Yes. Ms. McGuire.
Stump for don't be complacent and think other people are going to vote it down.
Yes. Right.
Get out there and vote. Send it in and vote. Rah, rah.
And I think that's a perfect note to end the State of the City on. Again, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out. You have council members in the room if you have additional questions. And we also have staff that are here, and we have goodies. So please stop and mingle and get to know your neighbors. We've got coffee, we've got some desserts. And I don't know if I need to just pass this over to Mayor Pro Tem if there's another part of the program. So I'm going to pass it over to you. Thank you so much.
So everybody's adjourned. Enjoy the sweets and the goodies and mingle, and thank you all for coming out.